Were you able to read the whole thing?
Yes, and obviously there's that first thing you see is that apparently like you told them, and the very next morning you looked and all the recommendations they had for you they removed.
Well, it like the timeline was, I remember I didn't get summer teaching in 2019, and I hadn't been doing sex work for about 5 years. And I ended up getting a job as personal assistant to this one critically acclaimed novelist who turned out to be a fucking sociopath. So then I found myself on July 1, like with no rent money and my dick in my hand. And was like, okay, I need to make, $2K in like under a week. Guess we're doing sex work again. Like, wee! And about a month later, this woman, and she and I were like hella close. She's like, so what are you doing for work this summer? I'm worried about you. And I was like, oh, it's okay, I got a job. And she's like, where at? And I was like, at my work. She was like, well, what are you doing there? And I'm like, working. And she's like, cut the shit. Like, what's your job? So I was like, okay, I didn't want to tell you because I just didn't want to bum you out or whatever, but I've been doing sex work, but and I was like, how can I make homophobia work for me? I'm like, don't worry, I'm not an escort, I'm a dominate. Like, I don't think, if anything, that hurt my case. And she was like, I'm gonna have to process this. And then this was in August, and the way that the academic job market works is that you apply for jobs, and it's like when you're applying to college, you like apply in the fall, and then you interview over like winter and spring, and then you find out if you got a job in like April. So I needed her to update her letters of rec for me, and all she had to do was change the year from like 2018 to 2019. But I asked her to, and she was like, "No, I have neither the will nor energy or something to do it." I was like, okay. And then a few weeks later, I was like, I want to see what that bitch wrote about me, because when you apply to academic jobs, you use this like dossier service called Interfolio, and they like collect all of your letters of rec and like writing samples and CV and shit. So I went into my account, and like I can't see them because they're confidential, but I was just going to send them to a professor friend and have them send it to me. And I went to go find hers, and it wasn't there. Oh. And it like took me a minute, and I was like, oh shit. And then we had like a phone conversation about a month later, and this was when I was still debating if I should write about it or not, because she and I have been thick as thieves for like a decade. And I was like, you withdrew my letters, and she goes, yeah, so? And I'm like, you're in your 60s. Why are you saying that? And she's like, well, you made a terrible decision, and this is what I had to do for you to see how terrible it was, meaning doing sex work.
Which also, like, that seems so counterintuitive, because if sex work is a bad choice and you shouldn't be a sex worker, how is denying you a job outside of sex work helping you? What?
Excellent question. So yeah, no, and she was like, no, I'm not going to put them back. So I ended up getting another letter, and like I didn't get a job that year, an academic job at least. But after that, I was like, fuck this bitch, I'm writing about this. And then I did, and it went viral, which is like how I went from like no one, I had a sex work account, but it was just like, for my doming in Manhattan. So I went from like no one to like a name, at least in academia. Back in like late 2019. But what was I going to? I forget what I was going to follow that with. Oh, also, man, and I knew like no one is going to give a flying fuck if some random sex worker is mad that their boomer mentor is a whorephobe. Like, please. And half the responses I got from my like some older friends were like, well, why did you fucking tell her? And I'm like, she was grilling me, I didn't know what to do, I was in a corner. It's like I'm going to need to have something that gives me more institutional clout than she has, and like publishing in the Chronicle of Higher Education is probably the only way I'm going to be able to like make that specific argument effective, or like make the complaint effective. Which I also hate, so how can I make classism work for me? But like God, I remember too when trying to get the Chronicle to publish it, they were dragging their heels so hard. They were like, well, I don't know, the legal team's gonna like this. They kept making fun of my name. They were like, well, you sound like Mr. Snow. And then they had it like Mr. Sal or Mistress Sal at one point. I'm like, can you fucking... I had to fight with so many editors. It took something like 3 or 4 months for them to actually publish the thing because they were so worried about getting sued for libel. And I'm like, I'm not named and she's not named and the institution isn't named. I don't even give my like feel. The only reason I share that now is because I've been talked so much. But like finally getting that published was because I mean what she did was ridiculous. I think even to most academics who aren't sex workers and don't know that they know sex workers, because it's just like it's like low-key sexual harassment to penalize your mentee for something like for the sex she's having. But shit, where was I going? My ADHD has gotten so much worse with the pandemic. It's unbelievable. But wait, was this what I was going to say? I was saying people were like, why did you tell her? I mean, I think just so many people don't realize, I mean, we know this, so many people have no idea that they have any relation to sex work whatsoever at all. Most people probably think that. And like, I've been trying to theorize this, like, only recently have like cis people started identifying themselves as cis, like publicly, because previously, like, there wasn't anything against which to like comprehend or like being cisgendered, you know. I found that word cis was only invented or coined whatever in like 1994, so it's like crazy. But you know, people didn't realize that they knew trans people, or cis people didn't realize that they knew trans people until like relatively recently, like past like 10 years. But you know, ditto what like people they don't know that like sex workers are everywhere. Yeah, we're like Jews. We're the threat among you. You don't even know we've already infiltrated your banks. Disclaimer, am Jewish. Am allowed to say that.
Oh, we're gonna get some interesting comments when somebody
edit however you please.
Oh no, I'm already like I put my first like, you know, heavily edited, you know, I put it together because I try to make art out of this media when I do it. You know, I don't just straight upload it as we record it. You know, I add in the bells and whistles and try to make it pretty neat. And I put one on TikTok, and we're small. We literally have 0 followers, 800 views on the clip. All hate comments because people hate sex workers, of course.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Big.
Not 1 follower. 32 likes out of the 800 views. So we're winning. And if I could move on over in this direction, we're still playing around in 2022 here, published on April 6th. Those good folks over at the New York Post. Yeah, they told me that Dr. Olivia Snow, an adjunct college professor in New York City and tech researcher at UCLA and NYU, is virally blasting the food delivery behemoth DoorDash, telling us, they use the word claiming. I love that. That's that.
Right.
They're claiming. It's like, we don't believe you, whore.
What? Diva dominatrix.
Claiming it arbitrarily discontinued servicing her due to her part-time gig as a leather corset donning dungeon dom, which the New York Post, you gotta love them.
That's some fun editorial.
They did a video too. It's fucking hysterical.
Really? Okay, I'll be editing that in.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. And I'm like, I don't have any leather corsets. That doesn't seem very practical, actually.
Yeah, and not you realize, as you say you don't have any leather corsets, that line in there, they made that a hyperlink, so they mean it.
Now I need to yell at the internet until some poor bastard buys me one.
Right now. Oh, and guess what the hyperlink takes you to? Not even you. Just a whole other article titled Mama Natrix, Epileptic Mother of Two Boost Confidence as Sexy Dom. They just don't give a damn. They're going for the click.
I love it. I'm sorry. I love it.
But this is something that happened to you with DoorDash, huh?
Yeah. So one of my friends had moved to LA last March, and she was homeless for a bit and living in a hostel. And I was like, I want to send my friend a burrito because like all she's been eating is like shit that she's stolen from CVS. So I tried to send her the fucking burrito, and it didn't let me complete the thing. It was just like, your account has been suspended, and I got an email, and then I posted the email, and I think I captioned it something like, love to be a whore. And I had like a bunch of sex workers in my replies were like, oh my, this happened to me. And it happened to me on Caviar too before that, but I hate this. This happened like right after I lost my Tinder, I lost my Grubhub or whatever. And then there were a bunch of like not sex workers being like, are you sure? Did you answer the door dressed in a leather corset? That might be the front, like, just fucking ridiculous shit. And I'm like, there is an entire like waterfall of sex workers saying this exact thing has happened to them, and literally no one else can say that it's happened. Like, no one who's not a sex worker can say that it's happened to them. But sure, maybe I answered the door in a leather corset.
Which also, even if you did, so the fuck what?
I definitely had food delivered to one of my dungeons. Actually, both, but whatever. I was wearing street clothes. It's fine. Yeah, they reached out to DoorDash, and DoorDash was like, "How dare! We would never ban a sex worker on the basis of their respectable occupation." I think Airbnb said the same thing, which was funny because I ended up writing about Airbnb a few months later, and they responded to the New York Post, but they wouldn't respond to me, including to my DMs that were like, "Hey, your press email doesn't fucking work. It bounces back. You should update that." I haven't checked if they updated it. Probably not.
Diva Dominatrix is giving DoorDash a dirty digital tongue lashing. And Posse, let me tell you, this leather-wearing wild woman is letting loose online, okay? Dr. Olivia Snow. Sis does it all. She holds a PhD in American Studies. She's an adjunct professor at a college in New York City, and she does research at NYU and UCLA. And when she's not busy molding minds, she is spending her time dominating over the bodies of S&M revelers who have a strong sexual penchant for corporal punishment. Dr. Snow told me that the people who really deserve a spanking are the good folks of DoorDash. Apparently, she claims that she received an email saying that her account had been arbitrarily deactivated. She said, well, what did I do? I didn't violate any terms. I didn't come to the door in my dominatrix leathers. Dr. Snow said that she's done research on tech companies and how they interact with sex workers. In her community, so many people are constantly being banned or deactivated or shadow banned because of the work they do in erotica. Why would these major companies cut down their income by ostracizing these workers? So she said that there is a lot of legislation around what is considered sex trafficking and what isn't. There's some way, shape, or form where these companies could be liable, or there's like legislation that kind of vaguely protects them and vaguely doesn't. From what she's telling me, they try to steer clear of any kind of sex-related work. So Snow claims that in her research, she's found that they use this special software and a lot of like AI, which is artificial intelligence, to do location data tracking. They do text tracking to see what you're typing in. So if you're typing in something wild on Twitter, they're going to see what you're typing in on Twitter, on Instagram, on Hinge, on Tinder, on Grindr. Whatever you're using, they kind of track your keywords and they can tell that you do sex work, and then they will probably discriminate against you for it. I reached out to DoorDash, and both representatives firmly denied that they do any sort of screening. They say that your profession is your profession. As long as you don't violate our terms of use, you're good. Snow told me they're gonna say that. She said that, you know, these companies will never admit to what they're doing. Snow is very proud of the work that she's doing to kind of bring light to this non-consensual surveillance that's going on. And it's not just sex workers. Like she said, they'll start off testing the software on sex workers, but then they'll begin to roll it out on mainstream folks. You know, everyone is susceptible to being scanned and kind of looked into without their consent. If this software is out there, if this artificial intelligence is out there, then we're all pretty much sitting ducks for any company to kind of delve into our lives without our knowledge. I need y'all to go ahead and give that like button a little smacky smack, and while you're at it, you might as well hit that subscribe button and hit it hard, okay?
All right, and this is where I would like to pop my head in and decry fair use, fair use. Please do not copyright strike us. Fair use. We delivered a commentary on the news update.